Game night on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig here, live in the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN FM. Tonight is the night the 76ers could lock up the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. We will break it all down coming up here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Why this is important, the ramifications if they don't win tonight as well, because there is still a possibility Joel Embiid does not play tonight. So you gotta keep a lot in mind with this game. Of course, here all right here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers versus Pacers. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Tom McGinnis on the call. Paul Hudrick, our Sixers insider from 97.3 ESPN.com, will join me coming up at 6:20 tonight. Also, a little big news today in the world of sports, and that is Philadelphia is growing capacity. That's right. If you didn't see the article over at 973ESPN.com, or if you would have had the 973 ESPN mobile app, you would have gotten a little alert about what's going on in Philadelphia. But the Sixers are going to have legitimate home court advantage in the postseason. Also, the Phillies will soon be getting to 50% capacity. So here's how it looks. The idea is that the Sixers, as you may or may not know, have been playing with 15% capacity in attendance. For the playoffs, they will be at 50%, which is the equivalent of 10,164 people in the building. Now, remember the Sixers went into the postseason in the bubble with no fans in the building at all. They were in the bubble. There was no fans there. They had video boards, which is as equivalent to fans in the stands as, well, nothing. Okay, nothing. So now they've gone through half of this year with either no fans or only a couple thousand fans. Now you have a situation where you are going to have at least 50% capacity for the playoffs. And if your Philadelphia 76ers make it to the NBA Finals, you could see full capacity. That is the plan as of right now, according to reports coming out of Philadelphia. Citizens Bank Park will be starting to have 50% capacity in 10 days as well. So I believe that was 23,000 or 21,000 is the number of how many people could be there. Basically, the amount of people who was there in a regular non-playoff Philly season would be in the building. So, but the bigger deal is for the Sixers. Obviously, the big deal for the Phillies as well. So we're moving in the right direction. The world is slowly getting back to some sort of normalcy. Now, obviously, there is a lot that goes with these teams getting back capacity. The Eagles announced today they expect to have full capacity for the fall, which in many ways is about, making sure that their season ticket holders know that they are going to be welcoming them back with open arms. But the bigger deal in the short term is the Sixers are going to have fans in the stands. And anytime you have fans in the city of Philadelphia in the building, obviously any fans are good, but having more than just 10 or 15% is massive, because if the Sixers can lock up this number one seed tonight, or that they do it on Thursday, it doesn't matter. Okay. It could be tonight, it could be Thursday, whatever. The reality is that what you're doing is you are changing the dynamic for a team coming into your building. This is a Sixers team that has only lost a handful of games in the last couple of years at home. They're not a team that when the crowd is loud and when Joel Embiid is raising his arms, basically coaxing them on, other teams can't handle it. I don't know if you saw the story about the UFC from uh, earlier today, but so the last pay per view, which I told you guys that Rose Namajunas was going to win that belt from Wei Zhelang, but Wei Li is mad because apparently her coaches are claiming that the reason why she lost the belt was because the crowd in Florida was too loud and they booed her too much and it distracted her. That's what they're claiming. That's a fighter. That's an individual. That's one person being affected by a crowd. And you don't think that the crowd's going to matter for the Sixers with whatever team comes in there? If it's the Eastern Conference Finals, game 1, and it's the Sixers versus the Nets, that crowd is going to be deafening loud. They're going to blow the roof off. And it's going to make a difference. Remember, for the Eagles, they got to the Super Bowl because they were at home. I promise you that if the Philadelphia Eagles didn't have home field advantage back in 2017, they don't go to the Super Bowl. They don't. Not in my mind. They might have beaten the Falcons, but they're not beating the Vikings in Minnesota. That Eagles crowd made a huge difference in that Vikings game. They got so loud and the defense fed off of them to get all those turnovers. The defense fed off of them in the Falcons game. And they were able to carry that energy to the victory. You Philly fans matter. I can't say it about Atlanta. I can't say it about some other cities, but I know it's true for Philadelphia. Philly fans matter when it comes to home field or home court or home ice. So big news today. You can see all the details over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Sixers are getting real home court advantage, and that is exciting. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers going for the number 1 seed tonight in the Eastern Conference. This is a dynamic changer because previously, when we talked about the number 1 seed, it was all about, well, you want to avoid certain scenarios. In the past, when we had conversations on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, or here on Game Night with yours truly, Josh Hennig, or in the locker room with Billy Schwein, what do we always bring up? We always try to bring up and explain to you, if you can avoid the gauntlet of being the 2 or 3 seed, you are at an advantage. And for the Sixers, they have that magic number is 1 because the San Antonio Spurs punched the Bucks in the face last night and they didn't get up. And they just decided to live another day. So right now the Sixers are 4 games up on the Bucks, 3 games up on the Nets. Sixers also are showing that they are being consistent. They're being consistent in that they're winning. I mentioned this the other day here on 97.3 ESPN. I don't think we should undersell this 8-game winning streak. You know, the Nets had a 4-game losing streak where they were just letting teams blast them away offensively, and their defense could do absolutely nothing. The Sixers are playing hard. It's not always aesthetically pleasing, but they're finding ways to win. And I think that test of mettle, that test of character is going to be beneficial for them in the long run. Now, look, I can't promise you that 50% of fans at eventually full capacity at Citizens Bank Park is going to matter for the Phillies, because I think the Phillies' problems have nothing to do with the fans. They have everything to do with just inconsistent play and maybe some poor decision-making from the pitchers and the manager and hitters not being clutch at times. So it might not matter. But if the Phillies make the postseason, we all remember what happened the last time the Phillies were in the postseason, how loud those crowds were. I'm not promising you they're going to win any game, but it's a huge difference watching a game or being in the building when there's people in the building. I was at Boardwalk Hall for the first sporting event in Atlantic City since the COVID shutdown. There was only a couple hundred people in there. Select family and friends, as they called it, were allowed in the building. And guess what? It mattered. Now, I can't promise you how much it mattered, but I could tell that it definitely, they could be heard. There was such an echo in Boardwalk Hall from a couple hundred people being in there. You heard everything down on the court. So, but the fans matter. And that's why I love about the fans being back in the building. 609-403-0973 is the text board. 609-403-0973. If you're listening on 973 ESPN FM or on the 973 ESPN mobile app. We also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show. Just follow 973 ESPN. Just like Jeff Bone and Pookie chiming in on YouTube says, I got to get some Eagles tickets, especially in Philly. Man, I've been told it's a totally different world at Lincoln Financial Field. First of all, there are very few environments like a packed house at Lincoln Financial Field. I would argue with anybody that Philadelphia is probably top 5 in the NFL in terms of how loud and boisterous and intense a home crowd can get. I would probably say it's, in no particular order, it's Philadelphia, it's Kansas City. Kansas City gets ridiculously loud. I would also throw in there when Green Bay is at capacity, that place gets really loud. I would throw in there Cleveland gets ridiculous. And for the 5th team, I would probably say it's a coin flip between the Steelers and their terrible towels, just screaming and waving and going nuts. And then Raider fans, whenever they get back in the building, because Raider fans are just nuts. Raider fans might not even know what's going on in the game. They're just going to scream and yell and curse at you anyway. So, we've heard stories about players being like, totally distracted by Raider fans. So we know that they're legitimate. So Philly is definitely top 5 in terms of the loudness, the intensity, the passion, the energy of the fan base. It's 100% like nothing else. If you've ever been, there's very few scenarios where there's a place that is louder or better or more intense than Philadelphia when the building is packed for an Eagles or a Sixers or a Flyers playoff game or a Phillies playoff game. They go nuts. They really do. I argue there's very few cities in this country that go crazy. By the way, good call by the texter. I forgot about the 12th man. That's a very good pull. The funny thing is with Seattle is I really feel like it's only for the Seahawks and the Seattle Sounders. I feel like that you don't get those kind of like intensity of a crowd for a Mariners game at all. Although the Mariners really haven't been good since Ichiro was there. So yeah, let me recalibrate that list. So in the NFL, it would be Kansas City, Seattle, Philadelphia, Green Bay, and then it's like Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Raider fans are all in like a grouping together, tied for 5th. The problem with Seattle is interesting is that I feel like Seattle is amazing and they're intense and they break those records and the building shakes at times. But that's only been like a phenomenon of maybe the last 15 years since they got the new stadium. Kansas City's been like that longer. Arrowhead gets nuts. So I feel like if there's going to be a rock, paper, scissors fight, it comes down to Seattle, Kansas City, Philly. That's my rock, paper, scissors threesome for the NFL. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. All right. We're going to get more into the Sixers coming up next, the nitty gritty with Paul Hudrick, our Sixers insider for 97.3 ESPN.com here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, we are live in the Matt Black Kia studios. Matt Black Kia, they want to get you approved today. Matt Black Kia in the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night, and we are live on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show, comment, get involved. Just follow 97.3 ESPN on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Tomorrow on the NBA on ESPN Radio.
Russell Westbrook is up there in the conversation of great point guard runs of all time.
The final week of the regular season is upon us, and the fight for Russell Westbrook and the Washington Wizards head to Atlanta to face Trae Young and the Hawks.
It's the NBA on 97.3 ESPN, your exclusive home for the NBA Finals. Coverage begins at 7 p.m.
When you support your local small businesses, it helps keep your neighbors employed, helps kids save for college, and strengthens your community. And Town Square Media South Jersey puts local businesses in the spotlight.
First Bank of Sea Isle City, Cape County's community bank.
Dr. Lyle M. Back for everything from skincare to cosmetic surgery. Go to ilovelylback.com.
Egg Harbor Independent Branch Leader at Charles Schwab in the Consumer Square Shopping Plaza.
Filling Marble and Tile Outlet, Philadelphia Avenue and Route 30 in Egg Harbor City. Visit fillingmarble.com.
Intuitive Women's Health in Summers Point, accepting new patients. Schedule an appointment today online at intuitivewomenshealth.net.
East Coast Roofing, Siding and Windows services all of South Jersey. If you call, they'll show up. Call East Coast today at 609-646-1444. Online at eastcoastroofing.com.
Thank you for supporting your local businesses. From Town Square Media, South Jersey.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers pregame coverage being brought to you here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM by Trifecta Therapeutics in Glassboro, South Jersey's premier sports rehabilitation and physical therapy center, treating the pros and the Joes. Visit them online at trifectatherapeutics.com. Well, thanks to the Spurs basically shellacking the Bucks for 20 points, the Sixers have a chance to lock up the number one seed tonight. You hear the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 8 o'clock. Tom McGinnis on the call here in your home for Sixers basketball on 97.3 ESPN. Also, all of our Sixers coverage over at 97.3 ESPN.com, just like with our guest right now on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline and live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. The one and only Paul Hudrick joins us here, and holy Toledo, he shaved.
Yeah, I did. It was about that time. You know what I mean? You just get to be, it's just
about that time. It's been like years, I think, for you.
For the pandemic, I was not clean shaven for the entirety of it. So yes, this is definitely a brand new look.
I feel like that's only the second time I've ever seen you without a beard or some sort of facial hair going on. So
it's very possible.
Yeah, because I think it was one time at your previous job I saw you on TV with a clean look. Otherwise, it's been some sort of beard, facial hair, some sort of shindig going on.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, well, we got that out of the way because that was a little bit of a surprise out there for me. Back to the Sixers. So I was talking about at the beginning of the show, Paul, that to me, this news about the Sixers getting capacity back, I know it's only going to start with 50% for the playoffs, but then potentially full capacity if they get to the NBA Finals. To me, this is huge because there's only maybe like, 2 or 3 other teams in the entire league that have the home court advantage, even close to what the Sixers can offer, because Philly fans are so passionate. They get so loud in that building. They might shook some opponents.
Well, and then the fact that, if they do clinch the number 1 seed, which they are on the verge of doing, if they do that, that only ups, that makes the 10,000 capacity, that makes it all the more valuable to get that 1 seed, because now you have that many fans in the building and the potential. I mean, Josh, I've been down there when it's been like 4,000 fans, and it can get pretty loud with that. So adding another 6,000 to that's going to make a difference. The players are going to feel it, and to your point, the opponents are for sure going to feel it. They're going to have a true home court advantage, and it's great news because we didn't know if that was going to be the case all season long. We didn't know if that was going to be the case. So to see that will be, it's pretty awesome.
Just to use an example, I mentioned this from another sport. I don't know if those of you didn't hear about this, but Wei Li Zhang, who lost her UFC championship a couple weeks ago, her and her coaches are claiming now that she was so shook by the fans in Florida being full capacity that she lost focus in that fight. So if that's one person who's a fighter, okay, they go into an octagon and they punch people, being shook by the fans, am I supposed to believe that fill in the blank team coming into the Wells Fargo Center is not going to get a little distracted by the Philly fans screaming and doing their thing? Of course they are.
Just ask Danny Green, George Hill, Dwight Howard, any of the guys that have been around the league that have been on the other end of that, and they will tell you it is no joke coming to Philadelphia. Like we all kind of, everyone in Philadelphia kind of revels in that reputation, and it's deserved, it's earned. The players, the opponents feel it. Danny Green specifically, this is just, a couple years ago, he's on the Raptors when they go to the finals, and they played a tough 7-game series, and they had to play 3 games in Philadelphia. You don't think that 7th game being in Philadelphia, if it, instead of Toronto, would have made a difference? Would have made a huge difference. So it's just little things like that as you get into the playoffs, again, when let's say they get to the Eastern Conference Finals and they have to play Milwaukee or the Nets, and that series goes to a seventh game, that's going to make a difference. Like, there's no doubt about it. And then kind of, with all due respect to a Milwaukee or a Brooklyn, it's not Philadelphia. It's not that kind of fan base. Loyal, good for sure, but not Philadelphia, man. I mean, it's a whole different animal. And you can ask any player will tell you, if they're being honest, it is a huge home court advantage at the Wells Fargo Center compared to most other arenas in the NBA.
Paul Hudrick joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers tonight take on the Pacers at 8 p.m. The chance to lock up the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Now, the only caveat to tonight's game is that guy named Joel Embiid, a non-COVID related illness. Do we have any updates on Joel Embiid, or do we have a timetable when we would have an update?
So he's still questionable. We got Doc Rivers talking in roughly about 3 minutes. So hopefully he sheds some light on that. That's not a definite. Doc is kind of 50-50 on that, whether he likes to share or whether he even knows whether a guy's going to play. So we'll see, what the status is. Still questionable. To me, it seems like if I had to guess, I would think they would err on the side of caution and sit him out. It just doesn't, yes, of course, they can lock up the number 1 seed, and that's big. But at the same time, Indiana is also very banged up. They still have Sabonis. They still have Karis LeVert, but, Malcolm Brogdon's out. Jeremy Lamb is out. TJ Warren hasn't really played all season. They're a very banged up basketball team as well. So if Joel Embiid is not able to go, this is a game they still should be able to win without him and wrap up that 1 seed. With that said, I'm sure Joel Embiid would probably like to be a part of that, would probably like to be a part of the night that they do that. But we're gonna, if I see something come across in the next 2 minutes, I'll let you know, Josh. But we're all kind of still waiting and trying to figure out whether or not he's going to play tonight.
Well, it gets back to the other thing that I talked about yesterday. I want to ask you about this, Paul, is that to me, people are nitpicking a little bit. Listen, I'm guilty of it too. Some of these wins, okay? It's the old saying, from Fast and the Furious. No matter if you win by an inch or a mile, winning is winning, right? So to me, it's not that they barely beat the Pelicans and barely beat the Spurs. It's the fact that they're on an 8-game winning streak and nobody else is. And you know what? There's something to be said about you're finding ways to win. So you know what? Maybe if they do win tonight without Joel Embiid, it's another feather in their cap to say, you know what? We can win with Embiid. We can win without Embiid. We are on such a good level going into the postseason. It doesn't matter what you throw at us. Bring it on.
And it's something that we talked about kind of all season, Josh. So many games this year that they probably wouldn't have won last year or the year before that. Games without Joel Embiid, games without Ben Simmons, tough road games against inferior opponents. To your point, these 8 games, in the past, they've lost games to inferior opponents because they haven't shown up. But now it's, the Pelicans game, should they have won that game by a considerable margin? Absolutely. That's not a good Pelicans team. They were banged up. No Zion, no Brandon Ingram. They should have won that game by 30. They did not, but they still won. And I think, too, another thing that I think people need to look at, too, Josh, is look at the plus minus of the starters. In all those games, it's extremely high for the plus side for the starting players. When you get to the playoffs, I hope that Doc Rivers doesn't run with these all bench lineups. But the bottom line is those guys aren't going to play nearly as much. You have 3 players in Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris. They're all playing at least, I would say, 38 minutes or so every night. You have Danny Green, who's going to play at least 30 minutes or so. Seth Curry, 25 to 30 every night. So it's not as if it's going to be all these bench guys playing the minutes that they're playing right now and asking them to hold leads. It's going to just be a different scenario. It's going to be a different animal. So the starters have played extremely well during these 8 games, and they have been the ones that have closed these games out. When the starters came back in that Pelicans game, that's where the tide turned and where they kind of, said, all right, enough's enough. And they won that game. And it's not the first time they've done that. That's happened throughout the course of the year. That starting lineup, I think, I don't know the record offhand, but they've only lost like 4 games and they've been all healthy together. Their net rating is outrageous. They have just been beating people up. So I think that's a big factor that people are overlooking too. The starting lineup is really, really good, and they're going to play big minutes in the playoffs.
Now, you mentioned those big minutes. What do you expect those minutes to look like for some of those bench guys. Because as you wrote at 97.3 ESPN.com, Tyrese Maxey's made a lot of great steps, but there's no guarantee he's going to be part of those minutes. So before we get to Maxey specifically, talk to me about what we're looking at. Shake Milton, I'm assuming he's probably a big part of it, right? Who else is a big part of Dwight Howard? Who else?
So I have no idea how Doc is going to go about doing it as far as deploying guys. As I said, I'm not a big fan of the all bench lineups. There's really no need to do that in the playoffs, especially like when we mentioned all these other starters playing big minutes. You don't have to do that. You can mix and match and make it work. I would suspect the top 4 guys are going to be, Shake Milton, George Hill, Matisse Thybulle, Dwight Howard. If he goes 9, I think those are that's the 4 off the bench. Then I think your next guy is Korkmaz, and I think your next guy is probably Maxey. Now I say that, but I also think it's going to be somewhat matchup dependent. Look, if they're stagnant and the tempo is not good, you throw in Maxey to maybe give you a little jolt, give you a little energy boost. If another team goes zone on you and you're having trouble hitting shots from the outside, maybe you go Korkmaz, see if he can catch a little fire, get hot, hit some threes, and bust that zone up. So I think it's those 4 guys that I mentioned are going to be the guys. Those are probably going to be the guys, but I would suspect you're going to see Furkan Korkmaz and you're going to see Tyrese Maxey at certain points. I don't know when. I don't think they're regulars, but I think, Doc's not going to be afraid to go to those guys. When he says he's not afraid to go to 11 guys, I think some people freaked out. They're like, oh, no, he's going to play 11 guys every night. No, I don't think that's the case. But I think that's just him showing confidence, saying that he feels like, hey, I have a deep team and I'm not afraid to go to these other guys.
Yeah, and having that deep team is what differentiates the Sixers from some of these other teams. The Nets don't have a deep bench. They barely have a bench. It's the AARP club half of it. But, they have a bench where some of the other teams don't. The Celtics don't have a bench, for example. So the fact that you can go deep, that in and of itself is valuable, is it not, Paul?
Oh, 100%. And I think what I like most, and, say what you will about Brett Brown, he certainly had his faults. There's a reason why he's not here anymore and why Doc Rivers is here. But when you look at the roster and the depth that Doc Rivers has at his disposal compared to the last 2 seasons, it's not even close. And it's not just the amount of good players, it's players that fit better. You already talked, the starting lineup, Daryl Morey flipping Richardson and Horford and turning that into Green and Curry. It's helped that starting unit out immensely. And then you go down the line, let's say Seth Curry is struggling defensively. Well, I have George Hill I can go to, and I can, I can use him, and he can still knock down shots, and he can do some other things. Same with a Shake Milton. If I have a bench wing that's killing me, I can go to a Matisse Thybulle and say, hey, Matisse, or Ben Simmons, let's say, gets in foul trouble. Well, now I have Matisse Thybulle I can throw at him. Dwight Howard, we're getting killed on the boards or whatever. We need a little energy. You got Dwight Howard. You just have more players, you have better players, and you have players that fit the roster better, especially when we talk about fit. It's everything comes down to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. You have players that fit better with those 2 guys. And I think that's the big difference from years past. And I think that's, to your point, the big difference between them and maybe some other teams in the East. Milwaukee is also a team that's got some depth. I don't think their depth's as good as it was, though, last year, to be honest with you. I mean, Bobby Portis has been big for them, but they lost George Hill. George Hill was very good for them the last 2 years. So, I do think depth is going to be something that is going to be something that the Sixers have an advantage of over some of these other teams in the East.
Paul Hudrick joining us here on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline here on GameNight on 97.3 ESPN, at Paul Hudrick on Twitter. Check out all of his work over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Sixers versus Pacers tonight. Tom McGinnis on the call right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. I mentioned I want to get to your Tyrese Maxey story. I'm not going to give it all away. People actually read it. But, one of the things that I appreciate about it is, for me, I was one of the people, rationally or irrationally, who was saying, I'm not trading this guy. I see something in this guy. This guy has talent. You don't have a guy drop in the draft the way he did and everyone freak out the way they did on draft night. And all of a sudden just be like, we're just going to trade him. I can't wrap my head around that. And to me, I feel like this guy might be a really key player in the future for this organization because he's already been a key player at points this season.
Yeah, listen, that's the rumors were that part of the issue, as part of the sticking point with a James Harden trade was Maxey. That's Tillman Fertitta really wanted Maxey. Daryl Morey really didn't want to give him up. Who knows it, with the Kyle Lowry stuff, obviously Toronto winds up keeping him. Could he have been a sticking point there? It's entirely possible, because I agree with you, John. I mean, me, when they made that pick, I loved it. I loved it. The instant they made it, I thought I thought he slipped. He shouldn't have slipped as far as he did. I get the concerns over the shot. He hit less than 30% in Kentucky. Even this year, he's below 30% for the season, but you're seeing improvement. And Josh, I think that's the one thing I really like about this kid is, my goodness, he works and he learns and he improves. I mean, for him to improve in this season, we saw at the beginning of this year, you love that floater game. It's so pretty and he's so good at it, but he had to learn that he can't rely on that. Sometimes you got to get all the way to the rim. You got to draw contact. You have to get fouled. And he adapted. And you've seen that recently over the last 8 games or so. He's done that more. The shot over his last games, he's over 40% from 3 over his last 8 games. The assists are up. I think he's at 2.9 over his last 8, which he's not a true point guard. So to see that number, that's very encouraging. All season long, he is taking care of the ball excellently for a 20-year-old rookie to come in here and take care of the ball the way he has. It's incredible. And you talk about, he might help them this year. He might. Even if he doesn't, long term, even George Hill told us that yesterday. He said he thinks that Tyrese Maxey can be one of the top guards in this league for years to come. He is 20 years old. He might start next year. He might start the year after. Like, he has that kind of potential. I think he could be that good. So if that shot continues to improve, I think the sky's the limit. And the fact that, he has improved so much in season already and grown the way he has, I think you have to be really encouraged if you're a Sixers fan.
By the way, the news just came down. We'll get to that right here. Looks like it's going to be no Embiid, no Thibault, and I just lost my spot. Oh, there's no
Korkmaz either. Yeah, they were already ruled out, but yeah, no Embiid out for the illness again, a non-COVID related illness. So the task is a little tougher, but it's still a task they should be able to accomplish, I think, against Indiana, who is also pretty banged up.
Well, and part of that is because, as we mentioned earlier, you have the depth. Dwight Howard. I mean, who on Indiana's boxing out Dwight Howard at this point? I mean, no offense to Miles Turner, but the guy is more interested in shooting 3-pointers, I feel like, at this point, than he is about actually playing as a big man in the post. So.
Well, Turner's on one of their many injuries tonight, so he is out. I mean, listen, I think, with a guy like Sabonis, Dwight Howard's probably going to get in foul trouble pretty early, because that's just the way it goes. But but that's fine. One thing we know about Dwight Howard is he's going to make Sabonis work. Right. He's got to be careful, because they don't have that many bigs without Joel Embiid in the lineup. That would hurt them if he gets in foul trouble early. But at the same time, Dwight's going to play him tough. He's going to be physical. He's not going to back down from that physical challenge. And that's what you need with a guy like. I think there was an instance earlier this year where him and Sabonis got double technicals, got a little tangled up. So if anything, that adds kind of that intrigue to it. But it's going to be interesting to see how Doc kind of mixes and matches things tonight. Do we see Mike Scott? Do we see Anthony Tolliver? Do we see Ben Simmons at the 5? But the bottom line is, this team has enough depth. They're a good enough team that they should be able to win this game and seal the deal tonight.
Sixers, Pacers tonight, 8 p.m., 97.3 ESPN. Tom McGinnis on the call right here if you're home for Sixers basketball in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. He's Paul Hudrick, at Paul Hudrick on Twitter. For all your Sixers coverage, check out his work at 97.3 ESPN.com. And Paul, before I let you go, I did not notice the shirt you're wearing. So, yes or no, Falcon and Winter Soldier was better than WandaVision?
Without question. I don't even actually think it was, and I liked WandaVision, but I don't think it was particularly close.
I don't think so either. I feel like people are sleeping on how good it was. It didn't break all the streaming records for April just because it happened to be there available on streaming platforms, so
I think it might even get better with Loki, though. I'm very excited for that.
I am reserving all judgment until I watch the whole series. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I watch everything and then I make an opinion on it, because I feel like there were people who were freaking out about WandaVision after episode 3. People were freaking out about Falcon Winter Soldier after episode 4. So I feel like it's like normal television. It's like you got to watch the whole season until you know what the season is. So
it's true. Very true.
All right, Paul. Appreciate you jumping on as always. And Paul Hudrick, clean shaven for the first time in 20 years here on the Boardwalk Hunter Hotline. Paul, have a good one.
You too, Josh. Talk to you, man.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers coverage being brought to you by Trifecta Therapeutics in Glassboro, South Jersey's premier sports rehabilitation and physical therapy center, treating the pros and the Joes. Visit them online at trifectatherapeutics.com. We'll get back to your thoughts and comments next. 609-403-0973 is the text board to get on the conversation. 609-403-0973. You're listening on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app. But if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can comment on the stream right below when you follow 97.3 ESPN and watch Game Night with Josh Hennig, the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, Monday through Friday, right here on home for Sixers, Eagles, Flyers, and more. 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Lobs it hard with a slam. Look out below. What a ferocious alley-oop dunk.
The Sixers are in Indy to face the Pacers tonight. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers and South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
A message to the workers of Atlantic and Cape May counties. If you have been injured at work, call the law firm of Donofo and Walkoff at 641-8805. Donofo and Walkoff specialize in protecting the rights of injured workers in our community. Although the law provides a set of benefits for workers injured on the job, too often they're not provided with all of the benefits that they deserve. Local attorneys Brandon Donofo and Adam Walkoff provide specialized professional legal representation for injured workers with results. Both Mr. Donofo and Mr. Walkoff are certified by the New Jersey State Supreme Court as workers' compensation attorneys, an honor bestowed upon less than 1% of all New Jersey attorneys. Call Donofo and Walkoff at 641-8805. That's 641-8805. Or reach them on the web at dnwlaw.com. Highly specialized workers' compensation representation with proven results. That's Donofo and Walkoff.
As a dentist, I know what my patients are saying.
Mm-hmm.
She says her gums are irritated.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you can do? You can try new Crest Advanced Gum Restore. It detoxifies below the gum line to restore your gums back to health in just 7 days.
If you're ready to get back to work or are just thinking of changing careers, 97.3 ESPN FM's virtual job fair is the place to start. Just go to the 97.3 ESPN app and tap on Job Fair. You'll find exciting opportunities from a variety of local businesses, including
Amco Total Car Care, Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township,
Release Boatworks in Egg Harbor,
Maurice Piers in Wildwood. Take the first step to a brighter future by visiting the virtual job fair on the 97.3 ESPN app.
you're an athlete or live an active lifestyle, aches and pains can be part of the game. That's where Trifecta Therapeutic comes into play. Trifecta Therapeutics is a premier sports rehabilitation physical therapy center located centrally for anyone in South Jersey, right in Glassboro. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a finely tuned athlete, they treat the pros and the Joes. No script needed. To schedule your free discovery session, use code ESPN Radio at trifectatherapeutics.com or call today.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Go back to your thoughts and comments in just a bit. Of course, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You can watch the show and comment as you watch here on 97.3 ESPN FM Plus. 609-403-0973 is text board to get on the conversation. We'll get about my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. That's right. You know, basketball Sixers game tonight. One of the things I love about finding new player props and game props that I like. And FanDuel, you can combine those props with other bets into a same game parlay bet. And you can only find them with FanDuel Sportsbook. Small bet turns into a big payout with same game parlays on FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether you're a new or existing FanDuel Sportsbook user, you should check out NBA same game parlays daily. Same game parlays are just one reason I love FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. Their app is easy to use. The payouts are within less than 24 hours. It is easy to do everything you want to do with FanDuel Sportsbook. So here's the deal. If you haven't tried FanDuel Sportsbook before, new users are get up to a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Just place a bet and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back in site credit if you don't win. So if you want to get on the basketball action, you want a risk-free bet up to $1,000, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app or go to sportsbook.fanduel.com, sign up with my promo code Hennig, and you get your first bet risk-free up to $1,000, and you get in all of the same game parlay action. That's promo code Hennig with FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or to play and present NJRPA. First online real money wager only for risk-free bet. Refund issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Gambling problem? Call Wayner the Gambler. And just to give you a little example of how a same-game parlay would work, for those of you who haven't tried it or are thinking about trying, just to know how it works. So we mentioned that Joel Embiid is not playing tonight. So what does that mean? Well, if you go over to FanDuel Sportsbook, you can get a same-game parlay. Now, because we know that Embiid is not playing tonight, here's what you do. We know Dwight Howard's playing. So here's what you do. You go and look for some nice odds for Dwight Howard on the rebounds. Now, the problem is right now, they're not showing Dwight on the number yet because it looks like they're still adjusting some of the numbers. But there is a number you can jump on, and that's Tobias Harris. We know the Sixers have a history of winning games. Tobias Harris gets at least 6 rebounds. So you take Tobias Harris. The odds just changed because of no Joel Embiid. So you combine him with the Sixers winning tonight. Again, same game parlay. So Tobias Harris getting at least 6 rebounds or more. Sixers winning on the money line. And let's say you combine that. We mentioned Domantas Sabonis earlier in the show. We know what he is capable of as a scorer. So I'm going to say Domantas scores at least 20 points. So Tobias Harris gets at least 6 rebounds. Sixers money line combined with Domantas Sabonis to score at least 20 points. That's a plus 238 spread. $10. You walk away with an extra $23. So that's how the same game parlay works with FanDuel Sportsbook. And if you want to use risk-free bet right now, use promo code Hennig when you sign up. And you can go in there. You can create that parlay. First bet, risk-free. You don't win the bet, guess what? Risk-free bet up to $1,000. If you did win the bet, hey, It's a win-win either way. Only with FanDuel Sportsbook. Promo code Hennig. Gambling problem. Call winner to gambler. All right. Let's get back to you guys out there. 609-403-0973. We got people chiming in throughout the show today. I'm very excited about fans being back in the stands. I said it earlier in the show. Dan from EHT chimed in on the text board at 609-403-0973. Says, you're getting me fired up for Sixers playoff basketball, Josh. Hey, listen, I'm fired up for Sixers playoff basketball. This is a point in the season where you want the season to get to an end so you can get to the postseason. We are still over a week away from the postseason because next week we have the play-in tournament, which will be fun. It'll be interesting, but it's not the same as playoff basketball. It's not the same. When you get a 50% capacity at the center up there for the Sixers, it's going to be interesting. I'm telling you right now. Those fans are going to be loud. They're going to be nuts. They're going to bother some people out there. Some of those players are going to get shook. They're going to get wobbly in the knees, wobbly in the hands. They're going to lose some focus. Some of those guys, they're not used to having fans. Many arenas right now are only somewhere between 10 and 25% capacity. 50% capacity is a lot. So for those who are not used to that anymore, they got to walk back into it. You know what? It's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for some of these teams. I'm telling you right now. Keep text coming, 609-403-0973. We are also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We comment on the show as well here on 97.3 ESPN. Again, no Joel Embiid tonight for the 76ers. So we know that the situation for the Sixers is they can win tonight. They lock up number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. If they don't win tonight, they have another chance at it when they go against the Heat on Thursday. You can also hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, tomorrow night, we have more NBA action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Following myself on Game Night, we have 2 teams that are fighting for standing in the Eastern Conference, the Hawks and the Wizards. How about Russell Westbrook? He's really finding ways to kind of cement himself into those record books. So definitely exciting to watch him play. You know what? The Wizards make the postseason. I think there's a lot of teams in the postseason that have no interest in dealing with the Wizards. There's a lot of playoff teams that don't want to deal with a Russell Westbrook coming full steam down the hill, playing at the level that he's playing at right now. They don't want to deal with him. I'm telling you right now. So again, no Joel Embiid tonight for the 76ers. Non-COVID related illness. He is out. They hope he'll be back on Thursday when they play the Heat. Of course, the Pacers game tonight at 8 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. Full coverage of the Sixers from our guys Paul Hudrick, Kevin McCormick, Jason Blevins, and more over at 97.3ESPN.com and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Don't forget to download the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Customize your alerts right now, whether you want Sixers news, Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, or high school sports. Customize your alerts right now on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of CLC. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great night.
Wake up weekday mornings from 6 to 10 with Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin on 97.3 ESPN.
We're back on Wednesday, and we'll tell you how many NBA teams are actually title contenders. Plus, Market Madness continues in Houston, in my hometown, LA, baby! Wednesday morning on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.